We forget everything today by evening, just to remember one thing. Pope Francis sees with his heart, listens with his heart, speaks with his heart. And that's how he wanted to look at the marriage and the family. So we will have some frames to understand what it is. So it's mainly the previous one. Yeah. So it's just the title. So we are looking into the thought, some keys to understand Pope Francis's thoughts on marriage and family, the next one. So we will look at this introduction. Basically I am looking at 3 or 4 areas. That is, marriage and family were always on the focus. Usually for every papacy there have been writings and discussions about marriage and family, and it's the same with Pope Francis, and we have Amoris Laetitia and all that. So what I plan to skip, there are so many papers on Amoris Laetitia, so I am skipping that completely. Otherwise, we will be doing injustice to those who have been asked to speak on that. But I couldn't avoid, but maybe very, very little I will do, otherwise I will avoid that. So what I would like to dwell upon is, what are the keys that will help us to understand the mind of Pope Francis? So that it's something like an appetizer. You are going to have a big meal whole day, but I will give you the appetizer, so you will have a taste. Oh, that's a wonderful thing that I can look forward to. So that's what we will look at that. And then some keys. So finally, one word about the lasting impact that's likely of Pope Francis's legacy. Once he's eventually, when he's evaluated, there will be some areas that we will remember him for many, many things. So that's it. So the next one is, there's a beautiful speech, quotation from Cardinal O'Malley. I spent about 6 years at Boston College in Boston, so he was my Archbishop as well, Capuchin. So he has this beautiful line: "We have a Pope who defies all categories and seems to have melded the Jesuits and the Franciscans into one." So you have a Franciscan-hearted Pope and a Jesuit-headed Pope, so you have both together in one. But he says, "I believe that Pope Francis is quintessential Ignatian Jesuit, and that's the hermeneutical key to understand him." So hermeneutical key. So he's quintessential Jesuit, how he plans and discusses and organizes. So the next one will give us some thought into what it is. So for the last 50 years, 100 years, we are familiar with the understanding we have about marriage and family. And these are the major texts. There are many, many other texts. I'm not going to say a word about them, but just be aware of those things. So we have in Vatican II Council, Gaudium et Spes, Lumen Gentium, and Humanae Vitae 1968. Just, I was trying to be born, by the end of the year I was born. And then Persona Humana 1975, and then Familiaris Consortio after this synodality, and then Catechism, and there are many, many documents which were the reference points to know what family is, what marriage is, and how do you look at them. So these are the documents. The next one is but what were the teachings actually? So we have the teachings, we have clear understanding about what marriage and family in one way, and there have been questions that were discussed maybe quietly, discreetly in the conferences, among the people. They did not come up for discussions at the major forums, global level, national level, not that frequently or that way. So we continue to have, so not that we did not have any problems or unresolved concerns. For example, contraception for the 1950s and 60s was a big issue. People wanted some more liberal understanding, but the church said through Paul VI that we have a value to hold on to, so that you can see the beauty of the family and marriage and sexuality. And then what do we do with the divorced and remarried people? 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50% of marriages are getting divorced in the world, and many of them demarry and then they struggle. So what do we do with them? So you will have 2 priests who may deny communion, you will have 3 priests in the same diocese who will give communion. So practically, pastorally, people were taking care of these things, but they did not have a bigger reference, a direction, or an orientation. It was not easy. So concretely, people were doing what they could. And then from 1980s, once AIDS exploded, there was a huge challenge. What do we do? the understanding of sexuality, marriage, family, what do we do? Again, there was a huge question. We didn't have a big discussion on that. There have been many cardinals who said we should think about this, whether contraceptives could be used in the case of a couple who have AIDS, one of them has AIDS. Again, we didn't have a bigger direction from Vatican. So again, the question of cohabitation for the last 40, 50 years, so many people have been living together because they don't want to marry or they want to try various reasons. So what do we do with all these people? So there have been questions all the time in the area of marriage, in the area of family, and local discussions were going on, some global level, but we didn't have so much focus as we got through Pope Francis. That's the important part. So again, the reaching out to the LGBTQ, huge changes are taking place, from discriminating, from persecuting, and then destroying them, harming them. We have come far away to understand them, to respect the dignity and the rights, the freedoms they have, though we have a different understanding of marriage and understanding of the family. So the next. So these are all the things that we could see. So we had teachings, we had concretely, we had practically pastoral approaches by individuals, some bishops, some conferences, but they were in the background. So Pope Francis brought many of these things to the fore. That's the big difference. So we have marriages facing for the last few decades and even much more. All the time there have been problems. The usual understandings of poverty, discrimination are there, but also Pope Francis often refers to selfishness. People are so selfish. They don't want to marry, they want to remain. And then a lot of individualism that comes for various reasons. Wealth, in jobs, in various levels. And then indifference. People are indifferent to each other in a big way. And then permanent commitment. There is, as Bishop was telling, there's a huge fear. Can I be committed for my lifetime with one person? People are changing jobs. Maybe 50 years ago, if somebody got a job, that person lived all his life with that job. But now you are going to get a new job somewhere else for a better pay. So people do shift their understanding of various things. It's happening with the marriage. But is this right? So are we so afraid to have a permanent commitment? And then the goals of life and achieving them. Again, 50, 100 years ago, goals of life were similar. Get educated, get a job, be married, have children, take care of them, have a wonderful life. But now, some people say, no, I enjoy creating something. I want to create a program and the software. That's the goal of my life. Are you interested in marrying, family, children, love? No. I have a big goal because I want to create a program or something else. So people are shifting the very, very many goals they have in life. And then how do we achieve them? So marriage, relationships, the human bondings that we had are getting relegated in many, many ways. So that's a huge area. Fear of the other. Many don't want to live with the other person. And we have seen wonderful families and broken families. I think it's better to live alone rather than getting married to one person and then we will have problems. I have to live with this man all my life. I have to live with this woman all the time. So the trial marriages, one of my classmates who made a marriage in Telugu, Antarmundu Antarvata, before and after, with the same thing. Shall we understand each other before we marry? No sex. But within a few months they came to know we are not that rosy as we look at in the beginning. So then things are taking place very, very quickly. The older monolithic understanding that we have a job, we have a family, we will have children, and then we have a legacy to go on, is shifting very quickly in many, many ways in the horizons of the people. So, and the very understanding of joy and pleasure by other means. So, people are getting joy and pleasure in many, many ways. Joy in the good sense, pleasure in also in the good sense. People are enjoying many, many ways. I watch a film and I am happy. I don't need to go somewhere else or look for something else. So that way the next one. So these are all the huge challenges that we have. So, to understand, Pope Francis's understanding is not easy. But let's get in the name. Bishop was referring to that in the beginning, that when he was elected, when he got the votes, the majority crossed, the neighbor told him, whispered him in his ear, now you are going to be Pope, don't forget the poor, do something for the poor. Now the poor includes everybody, maybe all of us included, the poor literally, and the poor who are struggling, suffering. Obviously the MC sisters are smiling, the poor, the focus of the sisters themselves is the poor. So don't forget the poor, do something to the poor. And that's how he was inspired to think of Francis Xavier from the missionary sense, but literally Francis of Assisi, who loved the poor perhaps so intensely after Jesus in the history. So why? Saint Francis of Assisi is the one who have broken these the old models. He was a universal approach. I want to embrace everyone, including the creatures, brothers and sister moon, brother wolf, everybody else. Everybody has to be in my family. I don't want to leave anyone. All should be here. That's the key for theological thing. So, like Francis, no one is excluded. Even if you are a wolf, I will take care of you and tell you, but you have a place here. So, no one is excluded. Get that point. So, he gets from Pope Francis theological vision as well. Not simply love the poor and take care of the lepers. When he visited with his G9, they started visiting not the cathedral, not the basilica, the leprosarium. This is where Pope Francis began to be a different person. So let's start with not the basilica of Pope Francis, Saint Francis, but the leprosarium which changes Saint Francis. So that's the whole idea. He is a Vatican II leader. Some Jesuit scholastics asked him, Pope Francis, what do you want us to do? You are working very hard. We want to do something. He said, read Vatican II and implement. Nothing else. A council text takes about 100 years to be implemented. It takes about 100 years. We are about 50, 60 years, so we have another 40, 50 years to go. Implement, understand. First read, most of us have not read. We have been given whole year 2023 to read, to prepare for Jubilee. Sisters and congregations are still asking. Few days ago I gave a conference online to the entire congregation about Vatican II, 4 constitutions. Still we are reading. So first thing is to read, understand, interpret and implement. So that's the goal if we can have in our lifetimes. So in a way he did nothing new or unusual except what is already in some way or the other in Vatican II. So he understood, at least as he thought, and then he's trying to implement. Is he a liberal person, traditionalist, or neither? So the liberals thought he's okay, he's on our way, but he's not that far. The sisters who are expecting, feminists who are expecting he will do wonders, he has not done. Will he make deacons and all those things? He is very, very careful. And the traditionalists are also worried. He is very traditional, but still he doesn't allow us to say Latin Mass. He is very, very little liberal. So he is neither. He is a very different person. He is not going to be pigeonholed by our categories. So that's we need to get that. So he endorses very traditional understanding normally. If he gives a speech on marriage, he will simply say, marriage is between a man and a woman, Genesis 1 and 2, and they should be open for procreation, it's a permanent commitment, it's a very traditional thing, not a word he will change. So, when he stands to the teaching, he stands within the tradition. When he has to understand the people, he will try to reach out to them where they are. The next. So, let's look at some keys to unlock this mind or his heart or his thought. So, to grapple with the Francis views, the next. So there are 7 keys. I'll quickly speak after many things. Okay. So the first one is, the name of God is mercy. I don't want to ask how many of you read that book. It's one of the first books that came in 2013 when he became Pope. Indian edition is there, a few hundred rupees. I got the first one, international one. Wonderful anecdotes and stories about his experience. When he was 17, he had a confession on the feast day of St. Matthew that changed him. So he said, in ourselves there is very little. We are broken, sinful people. It's the mercy of God that changes us. So mercy lifted me up, built me up, so that's what I am today, and that should be the experience of everybody. So mercy is the key. If people are going to evaluate Pope Francis 50 years from now, 100 years from now, and if they are looking for one word, it is mercy. It can be truth for Benedict, it can be life or love for John Paul II. All of them are great popes, but mercy is going to be the one key word to understand the entirety of Pope Francis's legacy. So that's very. So he is doctrinal. He hasn't changed the word doctrinally, technically, but he is preeminently pastoral. So we understand what marriages and families are. But when I go and meet the people as they are in the concrete situations, let us see where they are and how can I reach out to them. That's his view. So Walter Kasper, the one who wrote on mercy and who gave introduction to the synod and family and all those things. So he thickened the process by giving more theological views on that. So it's a beautiful quotation. Recently, Mali gave a speech, and this is from that report. So here is the answer to Francis's critics who accuse him of watering down or sowing confusion about Christian morality. The Pope places morality in the specific context of Christ's proclamation of mercy. So it's about that. If I'm trying to reach out to an LGBT person and take care of him from the lens of mercy, you will understand why Pope Francis is reaching out to that person. If you are looking at doctrinally, you will be confused and you think he is confusing us. He is not confused, or he is not interested in confusing us. He is using different lenses. The next. So, he is grounded very much in Thomism. He is familiar with, like anyone else, but theologically he is grounded there. At the primary principles level, there is no change. Do good, avoid evil, I don't think anyone is going to differ with that. At the level, we are all same. We are all on the same page. Secondary principles, love, take care of people, do not harm, do not kill, protect life. Most of them it will work. But in case of self-defense, if somebody hurts somebody else, how do we understand that person? We don't tell lies. Telling lies is wrong. At the secondary level, absolutely yes. But in this case, maybe your lie was not that bad. Maybe you have to tell a lie in that case. So that's Thomas' understanding. So at the secondary level also, most of the principles will be valid. But in some cases, this again from Thomas Aquinas, bound to fail as we descend further into the detail. This line is there also in Amoris Laetitia when Pope Francis is trying to understand how do we reach out to those people who are struggling. The next. So, enlarge the tent. This is the best. It became popular with the synodality. It's from Isaiah. So extend your tent so that everybody can come into your house. I wrote an article on this. It will be coming out in English very soon in the understanding of synodality and jubilee. So when he was speaking to the youth in Lisbon, Pope Francis said, todos, todos, todos. Everyone, everyone, everyone. No one is excluded. All of you are welcome. Everybody, everybody. He uses this word 3 times. All of you. All. Everybody. Total. So, here it is todos. So, he repeats purposely to reinforce that no one should feel excluded, even if your life is broken, sinful and rotten. So, that's the whole idea. That it is a house for all. It's not a small little house for the exclusive club, the self-righteous people, where everything is right with us. So, this is the struggle we have to go through. Mother wants everyone to have together for the meal, but if one stubborn guy doesn't want to join us, still he will be given a meal. So, let us have a meal when all of us are together, but the fellow who comes late will also be given a meal. So, there is no place, there is no way to exclude anyone is the heart of Pope Francis. So, Christ reaches out to us to where we are. Incarnation principle, Christological principle. God is not going to wait us to go somewhere to reach us. He will be coming to us where we are. That's the fundamental incarnational principle. So, be inviting, inclusive and welcoming. The US, what's happening? They are against diversity, inclusivity, and then plurality. All these things, there are big problems. Pope Francis said, let us build bridges. And there are people who are building walls. And US is trying to build a big wall. That's the most agonizing thing. Most part of the US today, the southern part of US was part of the Mexican kingdom. The US was 13 little states. They expanded and expanded. Today's US, 70-80% of the today's US was the land taken away from Mexico, the land of the Mexicans. And now you are telling, after taking your land, now let us build a wall because that is yours, this is ours. Most of there today we have oil and gas and resources and silver and gold was the kingdom of Mexico. And now you tell, that's your area, don't come this side, he said. That's the most ironic thing that's happening now. Next. So, we can see that listening to all people of God. So we have a discussion on cohabitation. 10 cardinals, 20 theologians, 10 bishops will come together and discuss. All unmarried people. And they are going to discuss about cohabitation and they will come to a conclusion. Pope Francis says, that's good. Let's have people who are living in cohabitation. Let us listen to them. We had a seminar about family in Delhi, all the married people, but there are about few hundred. Then we were talking about lay and lesbian, same-sex people. We were discussing as an ideal. Suddenly one woman said, my son has this problem. Then everybody was very respectful, very attentive. Yeah, we understand what you say now. So we need to have both. Theoretically, we need to know what it is. At the same time, we should be able to listen to the people. Even in 1965, when they avoided this discussion about sexuality in Vatican II and they put a separate council, Pope Paul VI specially put a Jesuit theologian to come up with a good report. He was for contraception, but after listening to the married people, he changed his mind. So Paul VI asked him, Father Fuchs, the best professor in the world at Gregorian now, I thought you will hold on to the church teaching. Why did you change your mind? Holy Father, it's not my problem. I listened to the families. I talked to them, then I changed my mind. So if you listen to the people, not that we have to change our minds, but do we listen to the people, the claims, the people who are important? So we need the power of narrative. Listen to the people, even if you don't change anything. And then the concrete, where people are, where they live now. And the sensus fidei, all of us have access to the Holy Spirit, to the understanding of truth. In little bits and pieces, all of us can get truth what it is. Obviously, we can go wrong and we can be erroneous, but let's also respect the people's capacity to discern in their own concrete situations. To the Spirit. Next. So, ongoing theological manthan. Pope likes that. While discussions were underground, quiet in the seminars, Pope Francis said, come out, let's discuss nationally, internationally, globally. So that's the big difference. He said, have no fear, come and discuss. So, keeps the theological fire alive. If you want to discuss about women ordination, please discuss. I may not allow, it may not be allowed, but please discuss. Don't stop discussing. Whatever is the topic we have. So the fire should be kept alive. The Apostle of Chodana said, we should keep the fire burning in our hearts. That's what is Constantine Levin's goal and theme. So he initiates processes. There's a whole idea of spaces and processes. We should read that. Spaces and processes. Spaces is you appoint a leader for the class so that he can run the good class. Processes means you initiate a model so that the students will elect who is a leader for the class. So even if you are not there, their process will be set in. So he is interested in setting processes rather than doing little things. So he initiates process and lets people think. So and ideas take time to mature. You don't expect ideas to mature in 5 years, 10 years. Let us start discussing. 50 years from now, things may happen. So that's how he says. So speak boldly. He tells the bishops in the synod every time. Pharesia, boldly speak, even if you disagree with everybody else, but honestly, humbly, you speak what you want to say. And listen and let's discern together. So let topics be discussed and debated rather than keep them under the carpet. Next. So we are finishing. So canonical reforms also he takes initiative. For example, when it comes to the issue of marriage and family, he says we have to help people who are struggling so much with the issue of marriage and then annulment. So he set in so many changes in the canon law so that it can be speeded up. Indissolubility of marriage is a gift from God. Not all of us understand on day one. He almost go to the extent. This is the quote from Pope Francis. The great majority of our sacramental marriages are null. That's a very dangerous statement. I think this will be one of the most dangerous statements ever said by Pope in the what are the five, if there are five. This is a very dangerous one. Because he says, they may not understand with all the excitement about getting married and with the celebration of marriage. Do they know what they mean? Do they know what they are taking up? Do they know what it is? So, that level, great majority of our sacramental marriages are null. This is to the speech, to the rota. But it doesn't mean that we have to do. So we have to, whatever we can do, let us do. Faithful don't understand commitment they are making in the beginning. So a lot of things, they mature, they evolve and they bond up. But if something goes wrong, if they seek annulment, if there are proper reasons for giving annulment, please go ahead and do. Give it in a few months. Don't keep the people miserably for years and years and years. There was a priest who asked for laicization by the Pope, Pius XII. And then John 23rd, who was in Venice, heard about that story. many years ago. When he became the Pope, one of the first things he did is that afternoon he asked the secretary, please call that priest, tell him he is a licensed, and let him peacefully sleep at least tonight. So this is John 23. So that is the compassionate heart that we have. So he says, if there is any way to help people, to liberate people, to experience, to let people experience joy and peace and freedom, do all that you can. Don't make processes long and elaborate and time-consuming and expensive. So, accompany the struggling couples, spouses. So that's the thing. He empowers bishops. Many bishops don't decide because it's a very complex thing. They will do their part and forward it to the next. He says, no, quickly finish it in a few months if you can. That's a very big request for the bishops. The next. He walks the talk. He gives all the things, but he also walks. That is, he said, let's help the cohabiting couple. So he invited half a dozen cohabiting couple with their children, and he blessed them, their marriages in St. Peter's. So, cohabiting couple, you are living for a long time without marrying. Please come, I will bless your marriage. Let's process it fast and get it done. I want you to get from where you are to the next level rather than finding fault with where you are now. That's his mood. So he goes for celebrating marriages, endorses the accompanying. So if there is a bishop, there is a cardinal, there is a bishop, priest who is doing something to take care of the divorced and remarried people, he will write publicly, you are doing a good work. That means he is endorsing that opinion, that view, that way of understanding things. So he brings dignity, justice, rights to the discourses on marriage and family. We have used the lens of fidelity exclusively to evaluate marriage and family. He says faithfulness is one, but justice. Otherwise, so many poor families, so many women continue to suffer. There is so much injustice done to men. Poverty can be a killing experience for marriages and families. So, are there rights denied within the marriage? So, in the marriage and families, do we have these things or is there a problem with that? So he brings them into the discussion on marriage and family. And he invites and involves the scholars, civic bodies, international governance and all that. And he speaks. So this is his style and substance. Substantially means you have to speak in a language that nobody understands. That is called very substantially. You have a big talk. Nobody will understand. Pope Francis will not use that. In the encyclical, very clearly he said, this economy kills, full stop. One of the shortest sentences written by a pope. This economy kills, full stop. You can put in a way that nobody will understand. The present way of economic situations are killing millions and millions. Why don't you say that very clearly? His style is his substance. If he is talking to the poor people, he's not giving a lecture about take care of the poor, he will take care of the poor. That's his message. His style is his substance. So you can see that. Next. So the last. New wine in new wineskins. Jesus told long ago about that. So is he trying to do that? Partly yes, partly no. In a way he is expanding, implementing what he can do. In a way, he seems to be pushing the margins and boundaries a little. So, synodality has done the same thing. So that we will be able to have a newer way of understanding ourselves as Christians, as animators, as leaders, as teachers, as priests, bishops, religious, whatever it is. So he gives us some windows to look at, some lenses to look at things. So these are all the things. So newer ways of understanding what the church is, church structures are, church institutions are. Bishop was telling in the Mass in the homily about that. We have structural system. Without the bark, the tree will die. But if the bark doesn't want to grow up, tree doesn't grow up. If the tree is small, if it's a small plant, bark is there protecting. But it has to go on expanding so that the tree will grow. If you remove the bark, that's the end of the tree. If it says I won't grow up, that's what legality. We need a structure all the time so that we can survive, we can flourish within that. But we need both. So the life, the sap within. So he holds both doctrinal and pastoral, the definitive and the provisional, and the formal and the informal, holding all these things together. And then synodal way, hold all together. That is what is dharma. Dharma means to hold everything together. Dharayati. So everything, that is dharma chakra also from the same. So all these spokes, they support the ring, they support the hub. So the strength is in everywhere. It's in the ring, it's in the hub, it's in the spokes. So all put together, things go on. That's what is in Dharma Chakra. So Pope Francis is keeping that way. Let's all place everyone into this system so that we can move on. So we have to go from there. So, and then synodal way, holding together, missionary mode. Family is not for itself. Marriage is not for itself. He is putting the missionary mode into everybody. I am not here simply to become an excellent Christian. What am I to do to the world, to the people as a Christian? Everyone is a missionary. That's where it is there. Vatican II said about the lay people, you are all the missionaries. An auto driver is a missionary because by being a good auto driver, he is telling the world that it's a Christian way of being a good auto driver is being a missionary. So missionary is not only a priest who goes to a jungle village and preaches good news. A driver, an officer in the government office is a missionary by being a wonderful Christian there. So Pope is telling us, be missionaries in all your places where you are, in any mode you are. So that's it. So it's not self-referentiality, what shall we do, how we shall become, but what do we do because we are Christians. So that's what, go out, reaching out to the people. So, as I began, the divine gaze. So divine gaze is the way that will help us the mercy to understand Pope Francis's teachings, our writings, our exhortations, our marriage and family. All these things will help us. So we will have a big spread out of various items for the meal that is going to come up. So this has been the appetizer that I wanted to serve you. Thank you very much. The next. That's the